Welcome back. Welcome in. This is Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com. It's Paramount Podcast. I'm Mike Casaza here after a win Saturday night for West Virginia on the road against the Arizona Wildcats. 31-26. An absolutely eventful, bizarre game. Chris, I don't know if 17-7 at the half was fool's gold. I don't know if 31-26 is misleading. This fits in with both teams, who they are, what they do. It's part of the mosaic of the Big 12 where it's kind of zany every time, and you don't really know who's going to do what or what team is good or if good is even good. I just know that we have 2 weeks to talk about this team now and everything going on under the big top because they don't play next weekend. And boy, if this doesn't shape up for four really interesting games now at the end of the season.
You just mentioned the Big 12, and I was looking at some of those scores. Like 1 point, some close games today and some weird stuff. And I just pulled up the standings, and there is a real possibility by the time we finish this podcast, or by the time you listen, you're listening, watching, that 12, 12 or 13 of the 16 teams in the Big 12 will be between 3-5 and 5-3. A
The guy
real chance.
the guy at the end, not Robert Smith, the other guy who got a bone to pick with him. Uh he said that West Virginia was out of the running for the Big 12 championship. How on earth can you say that right now? Like, I listen, I know that's not a especially good team that won or lost. I understand that. I just two losses is not disqualifying. And if your schedule, the fingers crossed thing in the athletic department right now is that those four games in the back end are winnable. Will they be? We'll see. I don't know. It just seems like it's a real stretch to say that two losses is you're out of it. Now, are they assuming that West Virginia's going to go 4-0? I think it'd be hard to do that, but just kind of it seemed like a weird thing to say here. I don't know where to start, Chris. I will say this. The play of the game, I don't know if people are going to pick this one out, and I'm going to like string this out for a second here so people can try to think of the play of the game and what I might pick here out of my hat. There's a lot of different moments here, swings of momentum that you just didn't see coming, times where West Virginia looked like it was going to accelerate and get out of jail. The touchdown pass to Traylon Ray, I kind of thought was the icing on the cake there. The whole game swings though, Chris, on the botched option that Cole Taylor kicks out of bound, turns fourth and manageable in the fourth and long. They're going to punt. The officials review it. It turns out to be an incomplete pass. West Virginia stays in the field. It's 4th and 3, goes for it, and then gets another touchdown on fourth and down. Fourth down. The first 24 points of the game are scored on fourth down. And I don't even know if that's good. It's cool trivia, but I think it's a team that's really close to being in a much different ball game here. But the whole game changes on that fourth down review, and a running play clearly designed that way ends up being an incomplete pass, which just fits in perfectly with this game.
Who called in the review? Is somebody from WVU taking credit for that, or do you think an official that called that in?
I know that it was not challenged on the West Virginia side, and like they looked
Right.
confused over there as to what was going on. But then all of a sudden they started talking about it too. Yeah, that just a big moment there.
That is big because I mean, I'm about to say, yeah, that was big, but I forgot about it until you just told me. But you're right, because like
Yeah,
that was a difference maker right there in the first half. Again, first half points, you're not really thinking about it, but man, yeah, because they punt, and then Arizona's got the ball, and I zero confidence that West Virginia's going to stop them at any point, given what happened the rest of the game. But right there, and yeah, you talked about the Marquio Ray touchdown. That was one that obviously I felt with you, like that was one that sealed it,
mhm.
kind of, sort of should have sealed it, but that was a big play, and I look forward to talking about that one in a bit when we get to more details about the quarterback play and stuff. But yeah, this is a God
Yes.
dumb game. This is a dumb, stupid game between two teams that I don't. Man, they got some problems. Both of them do. They got some good pieces, both of them, but holy cow, they are flawed teams.
Can uh can we go over the first half here and just how West Virginia's up 17-7 and you think, okay, that's probably just. I just think about, man, you're so close to being down 7-3 or down 7-6 to get all these points on fourth down. The first drive, Chris, it's like 7 minutes long. I forget how many plays exactly. I want to say that it was like maybe 12 or 13 plays, but it went 48 yards. took up almost 7 minutes. It didn't even get into the red zone. And they ended up kicking a field goal. And you're thinking, man, is it going to be one of those games? Arizona, 6 minutes of possession after that, I think. No, minute 40 after that. But like, here's how weird this game is, Chris. Tarnu squares up the ball carrier and hits him with his helmet, and you think the ball would fly into the backfield for Arizona. It goes instead like 20 yards in the other direction and falls right at Garnett Hollis's feet. That's a weird bounce for that. And then you get the field goal fake touchdown. You get the fourth down touchdown by Clement. Credit to West Virginia. The field goal fake is probably a Jeff Kuhn special. If I didn't get to talk to him but twice a year, I'd probably ask him sometime like what he saw and maybe what made him think he could get that, because that looked like they were ready for that one there. Sent everything to the left to block, and Arizona was coming from the other direction. Great call. And then you get the fourth down touchdown by Clement, but it's pretty difficult throw and catch there in that situation. I don't know if he's a half a step backwards, that's out of bounds. If he doesn't catch it cleanly, it's incomplete. Made their luck, I get it, but luck is part of that sentence there too. I just, man, just so different what it could have been at halftime, 17-7 But ultimately, those plays really do add up and make a difference. But I don't know, I don't want to say I wasn't impressed by the first half, but like that didn't make me feel a whole lot better about this team.
No, I'm not sure much of anything did throughout the whole game. I mean, I've already put up my stock up, stock down on the site, and you guys can go read that as well. But the like quarterback play a little encouraged by offensive line, not sure about. That was a little suspect all day long. As I put in my story, yeah, I get it. They're missing Wyatt Milam. But you know who didn't struggle tonight? His replacement, Johnny
Johnny
Williams.
Williams.
I don't even think I heard his name all night, which is a good thing. Like when you don't hear his name. We heard everyone else's name. We saw everyone else get penalties. We saw actually, you know what? I don't remember did we hear Nick Malone's name? Because remember that was my sneaky pick for he's going to be a difference maker. Did he get called? Hubbard?
To it, Malone gets a helmet sticker from me on a long touchdown pass to Ray. He just does just enough to get his pass rusher outside and gives Markio a roof to come under, and that gives him enough time to throw that pass there. That was a good play by Malone that maybe stands out in film, but probably to the naked eye didn't.
Yeah, he got whistled for one false start, which I think was one where five guys false started and they just had to pick someone. But still, it the problem was not Johnny Williams, was my point, was where I was getting there. And that was the guy who
Yep.
replaced Wyatt Milam. So the issues that were along the offensive line, a lot of false starts, holdings, some not I mean, a couple times, like I don't know, they kind of fluctuated depending on the play and the time. Got some big plays because there was one, the CJ Donaldson touchdown run. I mean, they brought both tight ends over to kind of kick out block there. They didn't really have anybody to kick out. Like
Yeah.
the offensive line had already done the job so well. So
To Johnny Williams' side too.
oh, yes. So sporadic, I think, is the best way to say to describe West Virginia's offensive line tonight.
Uh, let's talk about Arizona's final three drives, Chris. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Um, they have this guy on their team who's a pretty good receiver named Tredaroya McMillan. Um,
Mm, heard of
I
him,
don't know.
I think.
Maybe we should have asked about him or written about him this week. I don't know, but like he comes out of nowhere to catch 10 passes for 202 yards and a touchdown, and it just turns into a video game, Chris. Like Fafita is very much a video game quarterback because he's just going to take the snap and drop backwards forever, and then he'll try to do something positive with it. But also, he's going to lock on to one receiver and see how many yards McMillan can get. Tonight, it was 205 in his first touchdown in like 2 months. Um, I I mean, is he inevitable? Is West Virginia's defense inevitable? The answer to both questions is yes, as we saw. And I guess the good thing here is that West Virginia just like had their finger in the dike for long enough where they weren't going to drown underneath his destruction that he ultimately put on them in the fourth quarter. Like there was just some bizarre stuff in that fourth quarter that they're trying to do stuff to not let that happen, which includes the really bizarre positioning of um Travius Lathan playing deep safety in the cover two. He's supposed to be the drop defender, like in a zone, and he's just stuck against McMillan twice in key spots. Like that's not very good, but that's been their kind of go-to defense for a while. Um, I don't know. I do sometimes like that defense is what it is. And you just might go, eh, 31-26, one, but boy, he they figured that out. And like I wonder if at some point Arizona will regret running the ball 25 times.
I mean, we talked about it in the pregame pod, the preview pod. Like, why? Why would you ever run against West Virginia?
Right.
Kansas State, a team who only runs, was like, nah, screw it, we're not running. Like, not against this team. We're throwing the ball. Like, there's no point. And those last three drives that had every piece of what West Virginia's secondary, second and third level has been so far this year. The first touchdown was, and they showed it on TV replay from behind the quarterback. As he's getting ready to snap, you see the linebackers turning, their heads turned, not looking at the play as the ball is being snapped, talking to the safety, Anthony Wilson. Again, this miscommunication. What is this, like 5 games in a row now for West Virginia where they've had a miscommunication right up the middle? And that tight end, I think he was stunned by how wide open he was. Olson, like he turned his shoulder, was like, "Oh, I'm open," and then turned back the other way. Was like, "Oh, I'm open over here. Oh, I'm really wide open,"
Mhm.
and then finally got the ball. And then, yeah, you mentioned it, the cover too. I joke. I said, "What kind of defensive play call puts Travius Lathan in there?" Like, hey man, I play Madden. I know what cover two is and Tampa two is, and the Tampa two obviously means deeper a lot of times for the middle linebacker, sending them deep. There is one thing that these linebackers at West Virginia cannot do, talking about Lathan and Trotter, and that is defend the pass. They can do a lot of things great. Trotter got into the backfield a couple times. They stopped the run, they fill the gaps. They cannot defend the pass. It's just, they're not perfect. You can't put them in that situation. And I get it. You got to run some kind of defense. You got to try different things. But putting him deep, like having Trey Lathan turn and sprint 35 yards down the middle of the field
That's the
to
hard
try to,
part.
to defend somebody. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And it just ends up being McMillan, of course, which is just terrible. I don't know if that's terrible luck or great scheming by Arizona. And you're like, okay, that's terrible. Don't do that again. And then they do it again on the very next drive, and the very same thing happens again. And, and then I think after that, they were like, all right, Lathan, you're out. And they put in Ben Cutter at middle linebacker for a spot. I don't think he was hurt. I don't think Lathan got hurt. But man, like I just, again, nothing's working on defense. Well, actually, honestly, it kind of seemed like maybe some things were working. They were at least keeping it underneath early on, but they're throwing a lot of stuff against the wall, and a lot of it's not making sense right now.
Mm. Um, should we do this right now? The big question.
Yeah, I don't know what the big question is, but go, let's might as well do it now.
We have a quarterback controversy in Morgantown, Chris.
Ooh,
You are 500 with four winnable games left. You had quarterback play tonight that was, I think, very connected to the head coach's philosophy. I think Nico had four incomplete passes. Is that right?
18 for 22.
Yeah, okay. Two of them were deep balls. One of them was the option play. So he missed like one probably makeable throw out. And I can't even remember what it was. And I'm not
It was a
forgiving.
pass to Cole Taylor over the middle there was a defender
Yeah.
to
Okay.
Cole Taylor's right shoulder. He threw it to the left shoulder, which was a little behind him, and it
Yeah.
fell incomplete.
And a good idea and a throw you're going to have to make like you just explained there. So that could be better, but the two deep balls, I'm not saying you just, you forgive two deep misses, but like they're deep balls, right? So the rest of the game, he's 18 for 20 and one of the incompletions is a option, which isn't really an incomplete pass. I mean, it is, but like, you know what I'm saying? So they put him in good situations. I mean, 198 yards, two touchdowns, no picks. And then if you just look at some of the metrics here, like just the things that really work, and I X'd at him and I got to find it now, but just the things that they want to do and the things they did, I think were probably, again, like I said, connected with what the head coach wants here. They let him pass on first down, which is again against Arizona's defense. Their numbers for defensively against the pass are not very good. And a good way to get your quarterback going at the beginning of a game or the beginning of a drive is just give him passes like on first down, let it go. And he was good at that. 4 yards, 15 yards, 6 yards, 12 yards, a range of passes. But they let him go and they let him work and just clean play. And let's just have the discussion, Chris. Like, where does this go now? Because you have a whole week to think about it. And I can't see how this doesn't open up into a competition. I'm not saying that Garrett Green lost his job because he got hurt. I think Garrett Green lost his lead. I think that's safe to say, and I don't know what it'll take for him to lose the race.
I got a lot of thoughts on this. I want to talk positively about Nico first here
Mhm.
because that was, I mean, the second half of the last game, that was terrible. I mean, during the preview pod, I was like, Will Brown was not shy about it, about how poorly Nico Marchio played in the second half of the Kansas State game. And I said leading into this game, cool, concerned about that because Marchio was bad. Like, what's going to happen with his offense? He looked like a completely different guy. He looked like a guy who was able to practice
Oh,
all
yeah.
week long and got to throw and play with the teammates that he's going to have to play with in the game. Um, that touchdown pass to Ray, I want to circle back on it because I know I mentioned it on the board, but he's dropping back to pass. The pressure's coming on his blind side. Malone kind of pushes the pass rusher up a little bit,
Yeah, you saw it.
and instead of panicking, and I know this is something that maybe Green would probably do, where oh crap, and run and just sprint off, and maybe you get a 5 yard gain. Maybe if you're Green, maybe it ends up being a little more. But instead of doing that, Markio just takes one little slide step forward, about 2 feet, and that's more than enough for the pass rusher to go by him. Pressure's gone. Now he's up in the pocket. Nice, beautiful throw to Traylon Ray. Everything was balanced. Everything looked good. He looked extremely comfortable all day long, not just that play, but all night long. Like he did not look like a guy who was being thrust into a situation that he wasn't ready for. So there was a lot of things to like about what he did there, especially like you said, kind of in the same vein of what Neil Brown's looking for in a quarterback instead of just, I mean, Garrett Green's a better runner. There is no, I won't even have that debate with anybody. I don't think anybody's going to try to have it with me, but Markio is a capable runner. And it looks like Markio might be a guy who feels more comfortable making a more full array of passes in a route tree here, if you will. And at least he looked like it tonight. So
Yeah, I'm with you 100% here too. I wonder though, Chris, are they more comfortable? Brown is very into quarterback run. He said that before that he got the quarterback run into the offense and the offense turned the corner. When he had pretty effective offenses at Troy, he had a quarterback that could do some things. Not quite like what Green or even Markio does. Is it fair to say that they are more willing to run the quarterback with Markio than with Green? I would argue yes right now. I think Markio is bigger a bigger person, a smarter runner. And that's not to denigrate Garrett Green, but I think you kind of know where I'm going there. I don't think that Markio is going to get himself into the danger. A lot of his runs are going to be by design, whereas West Virginia might not run power or run stuff with Green at the middle just because of the size difference. And where Markio gets outside the pocket, I don't think that he's doing the reckless, the stuff that I think really worries people about Garrett Green. And true to form today, some of the good plays that Markio made early on, he's outside the pocket and you're thinking he's going to run, and defenders pounce on him. And what does he do? He flicks the ball to a tight end, once to Traylon Davis, once to Cole Taylor, and gets yardage out of that too. So I really wonder, yeah, the one thing to be able to run and to pass the ball when you're in danger like that. But I do wonder if they are more likely to call quarterback run plays with Markio than with Green, because the numbers say, and the coaches have even said, they were not having Green run the ball.
all right, I'm going to ask you a question. It's ready for, I hope you're ready for a hot take. I don't know if I'm going to give one, but could end up being a spicy conversation here. If you were the coach, say in the similar situation as Neil Brown right now, hot seat ish, hot seat adjacent, if you will, however you want to phrase it, are you leaning more towards, hey, these guys are pretty even about who might give us the better chance of winning right now? But if we go 3-1 or 4-0 with Green, is it actually better if you go 3-1 or 4-0 with Markio? At least as far as his job security is going. Are you catching my drift? Because Markio has more eligibility remaining, Green does not. Is it better to have the same record with Markio than it is for Green, at least as far as say Neil Brown's future, or I mean, heck, even for the health of the program is concerned?
I want to take you back to a time in history, Chris, all the way back to 2022.
Okay.
Neil Brown kind of sort of fires Graham Harrell. They benched JT Daniels. They put Garrett Green in. Um, you could have made an argument that Garrett Green saved Neil Brown's job. Um, Comes in, they beat Oklahoma, and they win the final game of the regular season against. I can't
Oklahoma
remember.
State 2 weeks later.
That's right, with Markio. Ooh, okay. But you certainly saw something different with Green at quarterback, and you knew he was going to come back, and he just brought that run element. We might have our answer, Chris, because Brown is deeper in the muck right now than he was 2 years ago, and he's got a quarterback who has more time on campus, who just had an excellent game and got them a win they absolutely had to have. And now you have a week to really break this down and figure out what happens, and also probably more importantly, figure out what do you do with Green. This is the guy who was catching passes and playing slot receiver before he was a starting quarterback 2 years ago. Can he be something as an accessory or a complement to the offense if you're not going to have him be the starter here? You can't. I don't think they will. You can. I don't think they will just put Green on ice. I think they'll have him in some capacity. I just think that for every reason you just mentioned and for what you saw tonight and the things we've discussed, I think it's gonna be really hard for them to go back to Green right now. Yeah, for self-preserving things here, if you scrape together some wins and you end up 7 or 8 wins with a quarterback who's going to be back next year, who's looked pretty good and gotten you those wins, you look like a genius. You look like you figured everything out, and you're gonna get another spin on the carousel. If you go back to the quarterback who, not I don't, he did not get you in the situation, but if you go back to the quarterback with whom you were in this situation and it doesn't work out, well, then you're probably both not going to be on campus next year. So it's something they really got to think about too. To the metrics I was talking about, Chris, the penalties that Markio had to overcome on drives, scoring drives too, consistent presence, and they crossed out 1st and 15. They crossed out 2nd and 16 or things like that. He overcame some of them too. 2 10-play drives. They were the first 2 drives of the game. He got comfortable after that and made some bigger plays. So it wasn't root canal after root canal. They were scoring quickly. They were moving quickly. 8-play drive, 5-play drive. They all end up in the end zone. Just 2 drives that lasted more than 5 minutes. Those are the first 2 drives of the game again. Um, Average third down was 3rd and 6, manageable. They didn't convert a ton of third downs, I get that, but also 3 scoring drives of 70 yards or more. The second and third drive of the game and the trailing rate touchdown, that was later in the game too. He just got more comfortable, and they got more comfortable around him. The coaches got more comfortable around him. And what was difficult at the beginning because the penalties overcame them. I think probably because of some nerves or some feeling out, overcame that too. And it wasn't as hard the rest of the way, and just indicative of the comfort they have, the confidence they have when it's 24-13, I think. Um,
31-13. Oh,
well, all of a sudden they hit the home run pass to
yeah.
Ray. And that's a play they've called a bunch before. That Green hit, I think, to start the bowl game against North Carolina. They put Markio in that spot to do the home run play, and it worked. And that's gonna be hard for the head coach, the offensive coordinator, the quarterback coach to move off of, I think.
Nico Marchio saving Neil Brown's job twice in 3 years. Is that what you're saying? Hmm.
Could argue that, yeah. Hey, has West Virginia beaten the worst 2 teams in the Big 12?
I don't know. I just saw Utah lost to Houston,
Right.
so
Is Utah worst the first or first to worst in the same season?
that's amazing.
Yeah, so like Houston's probably not it anymore. TCU wins tonight and just absolutely destroyed a parlay of mine when the kicker missed a field goal, and then they Texas Tech fumbles too. So like TCU may not be the worst team anymore. Oklahoma State is winless. Arizona looks, I don't know, like I wonder how much longer they're going to stay plugged in. They've been through a lot with the coaching change, stay go. A lot of guys left. This hasn't been what they wanted. They've also, I mean, they played an extra Big 12 game because they got smoked by Kansas State. They've taken some body blows here. I don't know how much longer they're going to be um, upright and marching forward with this coach here. Yeah, I mean, have they the schedule is doing them favors? Maybe it already has done them favors too.
Here's your bottom of the league. Your bottom four. Because Kansas currently 1-3, but currently beating Kansas State. So
Are you serious? Wow.
yes. Your bottom four. You got 3 1-4 teams: Arizona, Utah, and UCF. UCF still on the schedule. And then you got Oklahoma State as the lone 0-4-5 at the moment, right at the bottom. So,
West Virginia gets UCF,
mhm.
has had Kansas, has had Arizona, has had
Arizona,
Oklahoma
Oklahoma
State.
State.
Um, Cincinnati would be tough. They're playing Colorado right now, right?
Yeah.
Not expecting Cincinnati to win that one.
Tied up.
Oh, Cincinnati's off next week too, so there'll be no rest there. Yeah, just a lot to change here. Will you be by the fax machine tomorrow waiting for a news release from the university that Neil Brown has been fired?
No.
Okay. Anybody else being fired tomorrow?
You go ahead.
No, I don't. I don't think it's gonna happen after a win for sure. Are you kidding?
Okay. Yeah. I when it was 31-26 and it wasn't clear that West Virginia was going to be able to get a first down, I was like, this might be it. We might need, it's like, good thing I don't have anything going on tomorrow. This is going to be the one because if you blow three touchdown lead, a three touchdown lead, they're up 18. So that's not two touchdowns and a field goal. I mean, you could throw in two pointers and all that stuff, sure, but 18-point lead in the fourth quarter. You blow that.
Yeah. Mhm. That's a tough one. You might have to find
Um,
a room on the plane for somebody.
yeah.
That's tough. Just real quickly here before we go, just quality of the win here. We could talk about Arizona. They're not very good. They've lost a bunch of games in a row. They're certainly beat up too, but no quarterback, no left tackle, no spear, no corner. That Tarnu injury looked pretty bad. I don't want to speculate there, but that did not look good. Fagan's played two pretty good games in a row.
Hmm.
He might be the guy out there now too. You saw Crandall come in and play. Spells was not particularly effective in certain spots. They have to scotch tape and bubble gum some of this stuff, but all things considered, to get your team into the open week with a win like this, that's a feather in the cap, I think, for not just the head coach, but for the staff and the players too, and certainly the quarterback. But for guys who had to play more than expected or different roles than expected, take nothing away from that. That's an achievement for this team in the situation it's in, especially. Like I think that probably exaggerates what they actually did tonight too. That gives you a little bit extra for what it means, considering what they're going through.
I'm going to ask you something here because I worry that maybe you and I, media, the fans, or just everybody, are we getting, are we lazy with this of how we're describing West Virginia's schedule here, or is this just truly how it's breaking down? Because it seems everybody that beats West Virginia is amazing, and everybody that West Virginia beats is terrible. It might be like, are we lazy with that, or is it true? Because again, the teams that West Virginia's lost to are 6-0, 7-0, 7-0, and 6-1, I think is
Mhm.
what it is. Yeah. And then, the four teams they've beat are an FCS team, Kansas, Oklahoma State, and Arizona. Three of the 4 or 5 worst teams in the Big 12.
I mean, you have eyes, right? It's like you can see the
Yeah.
standings, you can watch the game. Like there's an argument to be made about that. I just don't think that you could say that you're not supposed to beat the good teams or you can't beat the good teams. I just don't buy that. Like, oh, the schedule is what it is. Well, if it is what it is, then what it is you're not meant to beat good teams. And I don't think it is what you want to be known for at that point. Um, that's a hard thing to accept. I think if you're an architect of a program or someone who writes the checks for people who build the buildings, that's not a great concession, I don't think. Is it true? Has West Virginia lost to ranked teams and teams that aren't losing? Yeah. Um, Still not sure Kansas State's the best team in the Big 12, and still think they could have beaten Iowa State and Kansas State if not for some big mistakes. But that's kind of the fabric of who they are and what they wear every time they're out there too. So can they beat the teams at the bottom? Yeah, they're doing that. So like they're in that thick middle, like which is kind of what you don't want. Like it's hard to get an A or an F out of them. It is. And today is not an A, it's not an F. Like it's very much like a I'll go C plus here today. And like again, because I'm impressed that they were able to pull it together when it really could have gotten away. That game is 10 minutes longer. I don't know what happens, but you probably go high C plus, low B minus, something like that on this one here. But like that's also relative. That's not going to get it done against a Kansas State, against an Iowa State, against a Pitt, against a Penn State. They're not playing any of them the rest of the way, Chris, though. That's the one thing too. So these things, like if they're regressing or if they're scaling things back because of injuries or personnel, they don't have to have their A game to win some of these.
All right, just checking. I
What are your thoughts on that?
just
It's a
say
good question. You must have an answer, right?
no. I just like I say, I don't think we're being lazy about it. I thought I was when I was just like, yeah, that team sucks. That team, because it is. You're watching this team, and in that first half, this was when I was thinking it was basically when West Virginia went up 31-13. So that was later in the game, but even in the first half and up to that point, I was like, all right, West Virginia's winning, but God, Arizona's terrible. And I felt the same way when West Virginia was beating Oklahoma State. It was like, I was just like, man, this Oklahoma State team is terrible. And so I'm trying to make sure that I'm not just thinking these other teams are terrible because West Virginia's beating them. Maybe they're decent and West Virginia's beating them, which makes West Virginia's making them look terrible, as I think is what I'm wondering aloud here.
I think that's the point. What cause is West Virginia of the other team's struggle? Um, versus like what causes West Virginia of its own struggle sometimes. And I think that's a fair criticism too. I'm not sure that West Virginia's defense is giving teams a lot of trouble. Um, did get the fumble recovery today. Did get was there an interception today too? Right, 2-0 in the turnover battle. I think right. Was there a pick?
No, they dropped two of them.
Oh, that's right, Jaheim Joseph. Yeah. So yeah, I just don't think they've done that. But that's a losable game if you're not careful and they didn't lose it. So if McMillan gets 15 catches and 300 yards, maybe they lose that game. But yeah, I don't think their defense causes the trouble that these teams have. I think it's probably pretty fair.
Okay.
All right, standard Sunday coming up, Chris. I would imagine this one was up and down on the win probability, right? Or is it West Virginia the whole time?
West Virginia the whole time. It
Close.
got a little, it was, started out 52%, but jumping out to a 10-0 lead gets you, pretty good. Hey, trust me, I was already putting together the numbers because West Virginia was at 9:41 in the fourth quarter. This was after the Traylon Ray touchdown, and I have a note, Hammond Russell sack,
Hmm.
99.5%. It
Be a tough
dropped
one to
down,
lose.
it dropped down pretty fast later
How
in the
about
game. So a little
how
hairy.
about how about the nerve to put Jalen Anderson on 3rd and 7? I don't think he was on the and he didn't have a touch or anything like that. I don't think he was on the field except for kickoff.
I think
Um,
first snap, yeah, offense at least.
he gets it and like that the defender is has a line on him, but he just outran him to yeah, I mean that's a huge play because again, if they're
Do you
playing
think that's
defense,
because they've been running that play together on the second team all year? Like the two of them?
that's a good question.
I wonder.
Something else I'm wondering about too. Do you think that some of these things where the defense is clearly stir fried before the play, right? That if Leslie were on the field, he could call a timeout, but since he's in the box, it's hard for him to communicate that. Like he can probably see it better from the box, but I wonder if
Yeah.
he has to like switch his microphone because the green dot is off and he's got to get to Brown or Shadon, Neil Brown or Shadon Brown and say, hey, timeout, timeout. And he can't do that. I wonder if that's a thing.
Hmm.
Because they've called defensive timeouts before, but he's on the field and you're not
Yeah.
seeing it now. Like that touchdown on the tight end, you could tell they were in a bad spot there. You couldn't tell it was gonna be a touchdown, but you could tell they were clearly communicating things. And that happens some other times too. And I wonder if that's something you sacrifice by being up in the box.
Yeah.
But to wait 2 weeks to ask that question, I guess though. Just Neil Brown on Monday. Tomorrow, three things I know. We'll do some snap counts. Going to be some unusual players. And you saw like Boyce, Jennings, Hubbard's on kickoff or a punt return, rather. Young players in that game today, key spots, and also guys who were injured, they were back. Some guys who were injured or out. 5 players who started games not there tonight for West Virginia. By the way, travel roster, 70 max. They didn't even fill that out, Chris. 69 players on the travel roster today. Crazy. That's the situation they're in right now.
True.
And
Okay.
you, sir, plays to change the game.
Yep. Plays that change the game. Actually, accomplished rankings will be up. God, it's going to be interesting trying to move these teams around. Like I said, all with what 12, 13 teams, all between 3 and 5 and 5 and 3. So sure, it won't be perfect, but we'll give it a try. Have some more recruiting updates coming up. Caught up with a couple more visitors recently, new football offers, new basketball offers. We'll have that. And hopefully they release the kickoff time for that Cincinnati game on Monday instead of defaulting to a 6 game window again.
Yeah, that's a good point. Quick road game for West Virginia there. I like that one. That's going to be a weird one too, where they busted that game and they're going to stop on the way and do their walkthrough on the way to the game on Friday. That'll be a strange one here. Kansas still up in the fourth quarter. Colorado up. Those are the two to keep an eye on there. Just 14-7 in Colorado. Kansas with the ball, 7 minutes left, up by a point. By the way, by the time people hear this, I don't know why I'm doing play by play. No one's gonna. The
Got
games will
like
be
the
over.
radio feed here. Bounce
It's
us
time to get
around,
out of
Mike.
here. It's time to get out of here. Maybe I'll just cut this part. Maybe not. And with a laugh. Until next time, I'm Mike Casaza.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
We will talk to you then.